I'm about to tell you something that's either going to piss you off or set you free. You have more power right now at your age, with your experience, with your resources, than you've ever had in your entire life. The problem isn't your circumstances. The problem is you don't know how to use it. We've been sold this massive lie that men peak at 35 and spend the rest of their lives in decline. Meanwhile, Winston Churchill didn't become prime minister until he was 65. Nelson Mandela became president at 75. Colonel Sanders was 62 when he franchised KFC. These weren't men managing their decline. They were men who understood that experience plus intention equals unprecedented power. But here's what's crazy. Most men your age are sitting on that same potential and treating it like it's expired. The resources you have now, the wisdom that you've earned, the network that you've built, the confidence that comes from surviving real challenges, that's not consolation prize material. That's rocket fuel. But most men never figure out how to ignite it. The ones that do, they don't just change their own lives, they change everything around them. When we talk about men over 40 and their confidence, it seems like it's all about blame. It's all about, I can't do this because of my obligations. It's all about, I don't want to rock the boat at this stage of my life. It's all about, I missed my chance, or it's too late to change now. As a coach, I've had the privilege and the challenge of working with men navigating those exact transitions for over a decade. And that journey has informed everything that I'll share with you today. My job here isn't therapy. I'm not going to give you a deep dive into your past regrets or missed opportunities. My job is to meet you exactly where you are and give you the mindset and the behaviors that will unlock the next phase of your life. So that way you can step into the influence and confidence you've always known was possible. Here's what we know for certain. Every man wants more respect, more authentic influence, more meaningful relationships, more leadership opportunities, more financial control, more physical vitality, more purposeful direction. We all want that. We all hope for that. We all strive for that. Here's the reality. Very few men, though, actually intentionally build it. Most men complain that they don't have it, but they fail to live intentionally and fail to create it in the areas of their life that matters the most to them. So, with that harsh and difficult truth, I have something powerful to share with you in our first principle. The first principle is consistent forward intention. I had a client that I worked with, 47-year-old executive, successful by every external measure. And he told me something that stopped me cold in my tracks. He said, I feel like I'm managing my decline instead of building my future. That's when I realized that most men over 40 aren't stuck because they lack ability. They're stuck because they've lost their forward intention. Think about it like this. A ship without a destination will drift with every current. It doesn't matter how powerful the engine is or how skilled the captain is. Without a clear heading, you're just reacting to whatever waves hit you. Most men, when they hit 40 and start managing problems instead of dreams, they're so focused on not losing what they have, they forget that they can still create what they want. My client had a corner office, a six-figure income. He was living his best life, or so it seemed, but he was also living like his best years were behind him. The moment his mindset shifted from how do I protect what I have to what do I want to build in my next 20 years, everything changed for him. He was no longer managing his decline, he was architecting his legacy. And that shift starts with one decision that most men never make. Does your life have consistent forward intention? If you look at men who feel like they're stuck and powerless in their 40s, 50s, and beyond, you often will see that they've lost their sense of forward momentum. They're not holding consistent attention for their growth and for their future. They're living reactively instead of proactively. Maybe they had someone in their life who constantly held contempt for their dreams. Maybe they had relationships that were unpredictable, supportive one day, critical the next. Maybe they learned that playing it safe was better than risking failure, so they stopped taking intentional action towards what they really wanted. I bet if you think about it, you can quickly identify some experiences where you lost confidence in your ability to create the life that you wanted, where it felt safer to just manage what you had rather than build what you dreamed of. But here's what the research shows us clearly. Men who report high levels of life satisfaction, strong relationships, and continued career growth in their second half all share one thing. They have clear, consistent intention for where they're going, not just reflecting on where they've been. In successful marriages, it's the husband who maintains positive intention for the relationship's future, not just managing its problems. In business, it's the leaders who hold vision for what they're building, not just what they're maintaining. But here's the key. This never happens by accident. Someone has to decide. You have to decide, I have an intention to make my next 20 years my best 20 years. I have an intention to build influence that matters. I have an intention to create relationships that fulfill me. And honestly, that's exactly why I started this project. That's exactly what I was looking for in my life. I was looking for ways that I could not only live my next 20 years better than my past 20 years, but that I could positively impact and influence the lives of other men who are in a similar space. None of this is easy, and none of this is guaranteed. It requires high levels of consciousness and personal agency. But I'm telling you, if you can't teach yourself to hold this through a setback, if you can't teach yourself to hold this when life gets chaotic, if you can't make this a standard in your mind, in your daily decisions, in your actual behaviors, I can give you all the tactics in the world. But without this consistent, locked-in intention that your life is moving forward, that you're growing, that you're building something meaningful, it all falls apart. All right, principle 2, ownership of your response. Here's what separates men who thrive after major setbacks from men who feel stuck for years. It's not what happened to them, it's how they think about and talk about what happened to them. And most men get this completely backwards. Recently, I was working with 2 clients who had very similar situations. They both had gone through divorces recently. They were same age, generally same circumstances. They were both blindsided by that experience. The first client that I was working with spent every session telling me what his ex-wife did to him, how his lawyer screwed him over, how the system was rigged against him. The second client said something completely different. He said, "This is the most painful thing that I've ever experienced. And it's also forcing me to become the man I've always wanted to be." Same storm, completely different responses. As I continued to work with these 2 gentlemen, here's what I recognized. Client A was always angry and isolated. Client B lost 30 pounds, started the business he was always thinking about, and started dating again. The difference wasn't their circumstances, it was their ownership. When you own your response, you own your power. When you blame your circumstances, you give all of that power away. And there's one specific shift in how you talk about your challenges that changes everything. Central to every successful transformation I've witnessed is this principle: ownership of your response and your next action. It's a level of personal responsibility. There's ownership on how each one of them interpreted events, how they felt about situations, and more importantly, how they chose to respond. When these men face challenges, they talk differently about their experiences. Instead of "this happened to me," it was "this is what I'm experiencing and how I'm choosing to interpret it. And this is what I'm going to do about it." You heard that extra part. This is what I'm going to do about it. That's not victim language. You did this. They did that. The economy did this. My ex-wife did that. The ownership is, I experienced this. I felt this way. I'm choosing to see this as an opportunity. Here's what I'm doing next. The men who thrive speak more from personal ownership. They're not projecting blame. They're not playing victim. They're not pointing fingers. They're able to acknowledge their experience without using it as an excuse to stay stuck. And then here's the critical part. Their ownership of their response flows into ownership of their next action. They're always thinking, what's the next right action of integrity? That right there, that's owning your behavior regardless of what happened to you. If you grew up in an environment where everybody blamed each other for their problems, where men weren't expected to take full responsibility for their lives, those environments create what I call low agency masculinity. And low agency masculinity is where men hide their real feelings about what they want in life and blame external circumstances for their lack of progress. I'm stuck because of my age. I can't change because of my responsibilities. I would pursue that dream, but my wife wouldn't understand or let me. I only lost my temper because they pushed me. We outsource control of our behavior and our future to someone or something else. Now, this is really hard. I'm not going to say that it's easy because it's not, but this is probably one of the hardest things you'll ever do in your own personal development, which is taking complete ownership of your response to life and the next actions. I want you to write this down. When my response is my own and my next action is my own, I'm responsible for them, I can adapt them, I can improve them, and now I have real power. When circumstances can't control me anymore, I have independence. When setbacks can't keep me down for weeks and months, I'm in complete control of my trajectory. I have freedom. And now principle number 3, leadership through influence. Every thriving family, every successful team, every strong relationship has one thing in common, and it's not what you think. It's not good communication or shared values or even love. It's this: someone decided to be the leader. I read this quote from a Navy SEAL who wrote a book after retiring, and in the book he said, "In every group, someone sets the temperature. Most people react to the temperature. They get cold, they complain, they huddle up, but leaders adjust the thermostat." You know, he was talking about his relationship, and he said in his family, he wasn't waiting for his wife to plan date nights, he was planning them. He wasn't waiting for his teenagers to respect him. He was setting standards that he was holding himself to worth respecting. He wasn't hoping for a better family culture. He was actively creating it. You can't control other people's choices. You can control, however, the environment that influences those choices. When you start thinking like a leader instead of just a participant, everything in your sphere starts to change. Someone has to be the leader. Someone has to set the standard. In every area of your life where you want influence and respect, somebody is setting the tone. Somebody's creating the culture. Somebody is bringing people together around a vision. In your marriage, somebody is working to make the relationship thrive, not survive. In your family, someone is creating and maintaining traditions, planning experiences, setting expectations for how you treat each other. In your career, in your business, somebody is raising the bar, bringing the team together, casting a vision for what's possible. In your friend group, someone is organizing the experiences, maintaining the connections, checking on each other, being the man that others look to for leadership. Here's what I've learned. It only takes one. Be the one to create that dynamic. Be the one to set the new standard. Be the one to create real influence in your sphere. In the research on influence and leadership, it's very clear that influential men don't just manage their own behavior, they speak and act as leaders of whatever group they're part of. This is subtle, but it's super powerful. Instead of just thinking about yourself, you start thinking and speaking in terms of we and us. We are building something special in this family. We don't settle for mediocrity in our work. We support each other in challenges. We are committed to growing stronger every year. That language of we creates influence and brings people together around shared values and vision. At one level, there's the actions, the planning, the initiating, the standard setting, the things that you do to bring people together and to elevate the environment. But at another level, there's this language of leadership where you talk about the group, the relationship, the family, the team as something that we're all building together. We are proud of what we're building. We handle challenges this way. We support each other's growth. We are committed to excellence. We don't give up on each other. This we story isn't just relevant, it's recurring. And the we story matters to everyone involved because you're constantly reinforcing it, and it's real because you're actually living it. That's a different level of leadership. It's like watching a team captain who understood that his job wasn't just to perform well individually, but to elevate everybody around him. That happens when you really care about the group's success. There's always someone setting the vision. There's always someone thinking about how to bring out the best in others. Someone speaking the we story. At the next level of your life, Start thinking and speaking as a leader, not just about your individual goals, but about what you're building with others. What's important to your family? What standards do you set in your personal life and in your workplace? How do you treat others in your relationships, both your family relationships, your romantic relationships, your friend relationships? How do you treat strangers? How do you treat others? How do you treat people that are in positions to serve you, right? What visions are you casting for what's possible? It's not just individual connections. How do I get my wife to respect me? Or how do I get my kids to listen to me? Or how do I get my colleagues to value my input? Those things happen through influence and leadership. It's system thinking. It's leadership thinking. You're thinking about the whole dynamic. You're thinking about the culture that you're creating. You're thinking about the influence that you're building. Those may sound like they're corporate buzzwords, but the reality is when you're doing those things as a part of who you are and a part of your life on an everyday basis, it permeates everything that you do, and you see the positive results in every area of your life. So be the linchpin. Be the leader who brings it all together. Be that man. Hey, look, I know everything that I just talked about isn't easy. Personal transformation never is. But if you can master these 3 key principles, consistent forward intention, ownership of your responses, and leadership through influence, you're going to be amazed at what becomes possible in your next chapter. You're not too old. You're not too stuck. You're nowhere close to being out of time. You are exactly where you need to be to start building the most influential, confident, purposeful phase of your life. Question is, will you be the one to make it happen? Hey, if this resonated with you, subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment. A lot more to come, and I'm really excited to continue to share it with you.